Okay, let me start the graduation video. Oops. Ah. Sorry, everyone, not what I intended to do. Give me 1 minute. Okay, let me try that again. Ah. Sorry, I was trying to make it full screen, but that's not gonna work.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Loyola University Stritch School of Medicine graduation for the class of 2021. 4 short years ago, you began your medical education as you stepped into Stritch as M1s, eager to learn from outstanding physician scientists and perhaps daunted by the challenges and unknowns before you. In these brief remarks, I will focus on 3 interconnected themes: talent, treasure, and time. First, talent. Today, you are well equipped to leave Stritch with the knowledge required for residency, excited about the next phase in your medical education, and perhaps daunted by new challenges and unknowns. But this juncture is different. While medicine is a lifelong practice of learning and growing, today, as you transition from learners to doers, remember that learning continues. Among the many lessons of this pandemic, we have seen the politicization of medicine. Resist that. Make decisions and recommendations based on science and the best interests of your patients, even if unpopular. Next, treasure. Your Jesuit medical education has helped you form you into physicians without rewards, the expectations of knowing you will go the extra mile in service to your patients, their families, your healthcare teams, and individuals beyond the walls of your hospital or clinic. You will go to where the need is, not retract from it. You are pursuing a calling that comes with great responsibility. From this day forward, you will always be known as a doctor. People will look at you differently and hold you to higher standards. Treasure your patients. It is a gift to care for them. Treasure your healthcare teams, and of course, your family and friends. Next, time. Make the time to take care of yourself and your family. You cannot take care of patients if you do not care for yourself, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and intellectually. Create the time to pursue other interests. You will be a better doctor and a better person for it. I am an avid reader, guitar player, and always curious about the world around me. As a resident, I learned that life is not linear. I fell in love, married, and had 3 children in residency. You have the talent, you will care for the treasure, and you will make time to continue learning and growing. On behalf of Stritch leadership, faculty, and staff, congratulations. Now I have the pleasure of introducing class president, Kevin Singh, who will offer remarks on behalf of the class of 2021. Kevin?
Thank you, Dean Marzo, and good afternoon to the Stritch class of 2021, to our faculty and staff, and to our friends and family who have supported us throughout this journey. When I reflect about our class and our medical school journey, the theme of unity comes to mind. I want to share instances from our 4 years together in which I found that to be true. It started that first day of medical school. We all sat together in the Tobin Lecture Hall for the first time, surrounded by people from very different walks of life. Maybe you were the first doctor in the family, or maybe you were carrying on a physician legacy and there was this weight on your shoulders. Everyone felt it in their own way. Maybe you had a sense of imposter syndrome, What helped ease you into this role of student doctor was your own efforts, your current support system, and maybe those people you sat around. 4 years ago, you could have never imagined that those people might become some of the most influential figures in your lives. They would become your classmates, your best friends, even your life partners, people that you couldn't live without. We all took that journey together, and in our first year, we established a new support system with our classmates, our educators, and our mentors. And then came second year. We managed a lot of administrative turnover, a time-intensive curriculum, and the loss of our classmates' loved ones. It was a tough year for us, and I imagine you can remember a moment where you hit a breaking point, where you needed some time or space from all that you were managing. In those moments, I saw classmates come together. I saw you all support each other through things about the wellness groups. Yeah, you know those feelings. This, coupled with the support of your loved ones, helped get us through that year. There was an exam we took at the end of second year. We could skip that. And then came clinical rotations. We started taking care of real patients all over the Chicagoland area, and were finally part of the patient care team. We saw birth, death, and everything in between. We learned from all these experiences and joined patients on their journey through clinical and hospital visits. We transformed from these first-year students unsure if we were capable physicians to confident third-year students, learning the process to care for patients medically and emotionally. It felt like we were on the right track. And alas, one more hurdle that none of us were expecting: COVID. Those 4 months away from in-person rotations were tough. We witnessed a tremendous amount of loss across the country and had varied experiences about how the pandemic affected us both mentally and physically. But from this tragedy came unity. You all found ways to contribute and support the communities that you cared for. You sewed masks, started community fundraisers, and volunteered your time to help others who needed it. You also worked to fight against racial injustice. All your efforts to support your society while coping with your own fears during this time was truly inspirational and added to your growth as student physicians. Not only that, we managed virtual Zoom meet and greets, virtual interviews, and of course, starting our Instagram careers with ring lights. None of us could have imagined that 4 years ago, we would decide our future residents based on our interactions on a conference call. When I think about our class, however, I'm not surprised that we could do it. We're a class whose experience changed throughout our 4 years of medical school, and we've adapted at every turn. To me, the class of 2021 is a community of change agents with experience in unprecedented times, ready for the unknown of residency and our lives as physicians. I'd like to start by thanking Victor and Nicole. We miss you both, and you would have made excellent physicians for your communities. Thank you for being part of our journey, and know that your legacy will live on in every single one of us. And of course, thank you to the faculty and staff who helped mold us into the physicians of the future. Thank you to our loved ones for supporting us in this journey. Thank you to our class board, and thank you to all of you, the class of 2021, for being inspirational classmates and the best group of people I could have ever met. As our journeys take us across the nation, I'll always remember our Stritch family, the class of 2021. I sit here with pride and excitement as I say, congratulations, class of 2021, the newest physicians of the nation. We made it. And now I would like to welcome the Vice President, the Stritch School of Medicine, class of 2021, Shashank Gupta. Shashank will be offering some remarks and an introduction of our keynote speaker. Welcome, Shashank.
Thank you, Kevin. Graduates, family, friends. My name is Shashank Gupta, and I'm so proud to serve as the Vice President of the Stritch School of Medicine class of 2021. Although my time with you today is short, I want to take this moment to sincerely thank my friends and fellow classmates for their love and support through what have been the most challenging, gratifying, and transformative 4 years together. When the pandemic struck during what was already a tumultuous period of clinical rotations, our education and life as we know it hit a standstill as we adjusted to a new reality. While it's been a difficult year, I'm grateful for the added time to reflect, which has truly helped me appreciate the mutual support of our classmates and our adaptability to the ever-changing field we now step into for the first time as physicians. Through our shared experiences, I'm confident in our ability to care for patients and each other alike. We entered this field because we wanted to heal, to lead, to teach, and to learn. And we begin our careers in a world where those qualities are needed most. While our schooling may have ended, the learning and growing will never stop. Commencement is not an end, but a beginning. And I'm so excited and ready to begin this journey with you all. It's now my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. David Ansel, a Chicago-based physician, social epidemiologist, and author. As Rush University's first leader of community health equity, he leads Rush's strategy to be a catalyst for community health and economic vitality on Chicago's West Side. His efforts at both the local and national levels have advanced concerns about health inequities and the structure of the US healthcare system. His 17 years of service at Cook County Hospital inspired him to write a memoir and social history entitled County, Life, Death, and Politics in Chicago's Public Hospital. Throughout his illustrious career, Dr. Ansel has embodied compassionate patient care, social justice, and racial equity in healthcare, the values we at Stritch hold deepest. Now, without further ado, here is Dr. Ansel.
Thank you, Shashank. Greetings, Dean Marzo, faculty, family, friends, and graduates. I am honored to be here today to address the graduating class of 2021. Who could have envisioned this moment a little more than 4 years ago when you received the great news that you had been accepted to Stritch School of Medicine? You burst onto the scene with the world-changing enthusiasm of the M1 year. Next, the panic attacks, teeth grinding, and sleepless nights of M2 step study. Then M3 year, eager and nervous on your first rotation, the daily donning of the short white coat, the sleep deprivation, the restorative naps during noon conference, and the hours staring into the screen of the EMR, transcribing deeply meaningful patient encounters into dot phrases and macros. Then, in a flash, everything was upended by the COVID-19 pandemic. Our whole world was changed overnight. Some lost family and friends. Others faced burnout, depression, and anxiety. Social isolation became the norm, but many of us found joy in the small moments. Zoom went from being a verb to a noun. Hugs and handshakes disappeared. Elbow taps became the new high five. You entered your fourth year with a lot of uncertainty. Residency loomed, but gone were the visits to other cities and dinners with the residents. Zoom interviews from your desks would have to suffice, but somehow it all worked out. And now you have matched to residency and will start your internships just as the nation emerges from the storm clouds of the pandemic. It was a year none of us could have imagined or will ever forget. All the trials and tribulations of our personal lives were dwarfed by the events in our nation. The enormity of the suffering that COVID has brought, over 500,000 deaths, more than died in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Stupid deaths, as Paul Farmer calls them, as they were preventable. The disproportionality of Black and Latinx hospitalizations and mortality. Black male life expectancy dropped 3 years in the first half of 2020. Then the murder of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests, the denial of science, the political rancor and the storming of the national Capitol, the 9-month race to bring vaccines into arms. What did we discover about ourselves, our profession, and our society this year? For some, the stress led to depression, anxiety, overeating, and overdrinking. All of us were forced to do with less, be less materialistic, as we learn to slow down and to discover the joy in little things. For those of us who are taking care of patients during this terrible pandemic, we learned the true meaning of our Hippocratic Oath, what it means to serve others, to face disease, suffering, death, and exhaustion while confronting our own fears. Medicine requires humble service to others, even in the face of personal danger. Our vow to the service of others is not conditional. The pandemic has been a vivid reminder for all of us in medicine of the tender fragility of life and the awesome responsibility of serving others. The pandemic also reminded us that our professional obligation reach beyond the clinic walls and the technical practice of our craft. In 1848, Rudolf Virchow, the famous German physician, upon investigating a typhoid epidemic, noted that physicians were the natural attorneys for the poor because often the unresolved problems of society were manifest in the illnesses that present to the clinic. COVID-19 showed us that despite our equal biologic vulnerability to the virus, our social vulnerability varied greatly. And that social vulnerability determined largely who lived and who died. Not much in our medical training has prepared us to treat neighborhood social conditions at the root cause of much illness. COVID-19 planted its roots into the pre-existing social fault lines that have defined our country for generations, ravaging Black and Latinx neighborhoods. Structural racism and economic deprivation, to quote Martin Luther King Jr., social conditions, not biological conditions, place Black and brown communities in the United States at higher risk. We saw this in our emergency rooms and ICUs, and the Black and brown bodies piled up. Our vast medical knowledge, our critical care capabilities left us ill-equipped to address the precarious situation of our patients and their communities. COVID-19 also exposed the fault lines in our healthcare system. The most costly healthcare system in the world was ill-prepared for the onslaught of sick and poor patients. Many large hospitals around the nation refused to take transfers of the sickest patients from the small, under-resourced safety net hospitals. And those patients, largely Black and Latinx, died. Why? Because our capitalist healthcare system rewards the bottom line more for performing elective orthopedic surgery than providing primary care for someone on Medicaid or critical care for an uninsured patient with COVID-19. Hospital administrators of some of the wealthiest local hospitals limited transfers of critically ill patients from battered safety net hospitals because they did not want to lose money. Taking care of the sickest, poor, and uninsured patients in the United States healthcare system was and remains a money-losing proposition. It was not just that. Beds, ventilators, masks, and thermometers were not available in the wealthiest health system in the world. COVID-19 exposed the flaws of a privatized free market healthcare system where the bottom line takes precedence over the community's health. What do the lessons of this year mean for you graduates as you embark on the next step of your journey? First, you must spend your time refining your craft, and that's going to occupy at least 80 hours a week for the next 3 to 7 years, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Second, remember that in this early stage of your career, that you wield a huge amount of power and privilege relative to your patients and communities. and how you yield that power consciously or unconsciously can have huge impact on their lives and outcomes. Listen to their stories carefully. Be patient, be kind, and be humble in their presence. Understand that your worst day will never compare to the suffering of the patient in front of you. Realize that we all have biases, and without an internal monitoring system that serves as a check and balance to disrupt your privilege, these biases will come out. Consider the words of the late Dr. H. Jack Geiger as you embark on your practice. He noted that the misery of the people is the origin of all disease, but also know that your work will bring you great joy, and the relationships with your patients from all walks of life will inspire and encourage you. Hope and optimism will sustain both you and your patients. The oath you took to serve others is not to a government, not to an employer, not to a corporation, but to your patients and their communities. Medicine is as much a treaty with society as it is about you and your patients. You're required to be an advocate and, when necessary, an activist on behalf of their personal and community health. Dr. Hannah Atisha, a pediatrician in Flint, Michigan, observed cases of lead poisoning among her patients, and her persistence in the face of official denial led to the revelation of the Flint lead crisis. Sometimes one patient and her symptom and disease manifestations, like in Flint, represents a larger structural problem that needs to be solved. Are you going to be ready, like Dr. Hannah Atisha was, if your time comes? As you move to the next step in your career, consider how advocacy for human dignity and rights enters into your own practices. What will you and your generation of physicians do to reverse the growing life expectancy gap between Black and white, between rich and poor? Dr. Donald Berwick, the founder of the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, recently wrote in JAMA about the moral determinants of health. He points out that systemic underinvestment in human well-being is at the foundation of the disparities in US health outcomes, as we have seen during this pandemic. He urges us that in order to address social and structural underpinnings of poor health, like structural racism and poverty, that we need to embrace the moral determinants of health. And this requires us to align in solidarity around a common set of human rights. Dr. Berwick outlines a series of actions that doctors and their organizations could pursue that would help us narrow the growing life expectancy gaps. I won't run the list for you, but foremost for all of us is the idea that health is a human right. When I entered medical school almost a half century ago, I hoped that I would grow up to be a good doctor and vowed to fight for the idea of health as a human right with all its implications. You and your families should feel really proud, as I am, of carrying the title of doctor for the rest of your days. There is not one day since I graduated medical school that I have lost the sense of joy from what medicine and my patients have given me. I wish for all of you that you find the same joy as well as you embark on your practice. But I discovered, as many of you will, that your patients need you to be something more than a doctor. They need you to be a healer, and not just of the human body and spirit, but a healer for our society and communities, with the aim to expand the rights of all of our patients. Thank you, and congratulations to the Stritch School of Medicine graduates of 2021. I would now like to welcome back Dean Marzo to share some final remarks.
As we near the end of the program, my thanks to Kevin for his thoughtful remarks, Shashank for the wonderful introduction of Dr. Ansell, and to Dr. Ansell, who inspires all of us. Finally, and most importantly, I ask these new physicians to stand and recite the oath of Hippocrates with me. I solemnly pledge myself to consecrate my life to the service of humanity. I will give to my teachers the respect and gratitude which is their due. I will practice my profession with conscience and dignity. The health of my patient will be my first consideration. I will respect the secrets that are confided to me. I will maintain by all the means in my power the honor and the noble traditions of the medical profession. My colleagues will be my brothers and sisters. I will not permit considerations of religion, nationality, race, party politics, or social standing to intervene between my duty and my patient. I will maintain the utmost respect for human life. From the time of conception, even under threat, I will not use my medical knowledge contrary to the laws of humanity. I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honor. The class of 2021 will now be recognized for their achievements. Once again, on behalf of Stritch faculty, staff, mentors, and the entire Loyola University Chicago community, I offer congratulations to these new physicians. We are proud of you, and we know you will continue to make us proud as Stritch physicians. Keep in touch with us and with each other. Congratulations, doctors.
Thank you, Dean Marzo. Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Neighbors. I'm the Assistant Dean for Admissions at the Stritch School of Medicine, and I'm honored to recognize the Stritch School of Medicine class of 2021. Dr. Jason Scott Abbott. Dr. Hermona Wolde Abera. Dr. Kavia Adam. Dr. Ayomide Adeleye. Dr. Benjamin Nathan Afric. Dr. Meghna Agarwal. Dr. Oludemilade Akinromtimi. Dr. Ada Akyar. Dr. Juan Sebastian Ariza. Dr. Anne Helene Arneson. Dr. Awalem Atanga McCormick. Dr. Emily Jane Bacalao. Dr. Matthew Smith Ballard. Dr. Peter Barnes. Dr. Yvonne Lillian Beltran Lara. Dr. Siddharth Ashwin Bayani. Dr. Khalil Musa Busi. Dr. Megan Elizabeth Brennan. Dr. Benjamin Lawrence Burnett. Dr. Nathan Douglas Bursted. Dr. Caitlin Lee Capitelli. Dr. Leslie Carandane. Dr. Andy Chen. Dr. Anne Lillian Coakley. Dr. Daniel Jonathan Cotton. Dr. Caitlin Ann Cristante. Dr. Brett Ferguson Curran. Dr. Melissa Marie DeAndrea. Dr. Brendan Thomas Daly. Dr. Paul Michael DeBustros. Dr. Allison Lynn DeForest Shariel. Dr. Cesar D. Delgado. Dr. Lachlan Driver. Dr. Alexander David Druck. Dr. Nathan Venkatesh Idara. Dr. Chukwu Nonyalum Obiagali Ekwempu. Dr. Keats Martin Ewing. Dr. Allison Marie Fawcett. Dr. Jordan Alyssa Feinstein. Dr. Joseph Nicholas Frazetta Jr. Dr. Adriana Jernay Frederick. Dr. Ann Elizabeth Gandolfi. Dr. Megan Bhuvaneshwari Guy. Dr. Philip Gergis Gobriel. Dr. Stephanie Grace Lick. Dr. Richard Rafael Gomez. Dr. Michael Dong. Dr. Laurel Annalise Gordon. Dr. Jackie Gu. Dr. Shashank Gupta. Dr. John Rowe Halston. Dr. Alex Joseph Hanna. Dr. Jocelyn Herrera. Dr. Chantel Antoinette Hillard. Dr. Yvonne Ho. Dr. Carolyn Ann Hoffmeister. Dr. Erica Nicole Ripko. Dr. Noma Iftikhar. Dr. Sarah Imam. Dr. Abdallah Famsamad Jabir. Dr. Stacy Jaime Serrera. Dr. Emily Elizabeth Janik. Dr. Janine Justiniano. Dr. Kristen Kelly. Dr. Rajan Khanna. Dr. Kayleen Jisoo Kim. Dr. Suzanne Marie Kirk. Dr. Andrew Martin Knapp. Dr. Shilpa Kolachina. Dr. Uvanash Simachala Kohli. Dr. Carolina Kathy Kravachik. Dr. Tiffany Koo. Dr. Konrad Kubitsky. Dr. Paulius Batsis Kupris. Dr. Oshan Kwan. Dr. Sean James Lamb. Dr. Lauren Elizabeth Lamparter. Dr. Lisa Elaine Lorenzana. Dr. Sarah Michelle Leibovich. Dr. Frank R. Leusi. Dr. Joshua Brian Lewis. Dr. Justine Bethesda Lee. Dr. Kyle Anthony Lynch. Dr. Peter Lyson. Dr. Peter Kwang Ming Mai. Dr. Anton Maki Baroda. Dr. Lillian Rachel Malik. Dr. Joanne T. Maliakel. Dr. Rushad Firdos Marfatia. Dr. Brianna Nicole Martinez. Dr. Daniel Patrick McKee. Dr. Madison Mary McKee. Dr. Jamila K. S. Media. Dr. Supal Mehta. Dr. Sydney Anna Minier. Dr. Julie Ann Mina. Dr. Sarah Catherine Mooney. Dr. Tomas Morales. Dr. Javier Morfin. Dr. Patricia Wood Morrow. Dr. Mark Raphael Murata. Dr. Blake Elizabeth Murphy. Dr. Daniel Jordan Murphy. Dr. Jonathan Michael Newgren. Dr. Joyce Lucetovan Bouchette Nhose. Dr. Louis Nicholas. Dr. Samantha Chevelle O'Connor Campbell. Dr. Megan Elizabeth O'Hara. Dr. Aminawan Oshaze Okundiai. Dr. Chantel Glendine Oldenkamp. Dr. Juan Gabriel Ortiz Vasquez, Dr. Juan Pig, Dr. Vanessa Palomares, Dr. Angelina Paulina Palomino, Dr. Soon Kyung Park, Dr. Dimpi Unkit Kumar Patel, Dr. Radhika Chinmay Patel, Dr. Alexandria Ann Pecoraro, Dr. Daniel Seamus Piper, Dr. Michael Anthony Perrin, Dr. Mara Brandis Peterson, Dr. Kamuda Kalyani Pradhan, Dr. Suprita Potumarthi Prasad, Dr. Andres Antonio Redondo, Dr. Tyler Olin Reese, Dr. Elhum Garukani Razai, Dr. Christopher John Richardson, Dr. Kelly Riestenberg, Dr. John Luke Marcelo Rivera, Dr. Samuel Roy Robertson, Dr. Shamika Kehoe Robinson, Dr. Natalie Ida Roque, Dr. Pravesh Saini, Dr. Sidra Salman, Dr. Michael David Scheib, Dr. Christopher Michael Seferin, Dr. Nicholas Paul Semenchek, Dr. Neil Sethi, Dr. Sohaib Sharwani, Dr. Esther Hisan Shim, Dr. Molly Christina Shutter, Dr. Gabriel Lakim C, Dr. Kevin Singh, Dr. Joshua David Sink, Dr. Hannah Rose Slovacek, Dr. Caitlin Nicole Smith, Dr. Herbert Parker Stride, Dr. Catherine Lucille Stromsland, Dr. Michelle Carlina Soon, Dr. Ryan Walter Sweeney, Dr. Stephanie Lynn Sweeney, Dr. Gregory Ricardo Tapia, Dr. Christina Maria Plazik Taylor, Dr. Irama Arkofwa Taylor. Dr. Joshua J. Thomas. Dr. Daniel Chernhui To. Dr. Jonathan K. Tran. Dr. Thompson Zhuxiang Tai. Dr. Sandy Dean. Dr. Joshua Scott Wallstrom. Dr. Andrea Jean Joaquin. Dr. Martin Gerard Walsh. Dr. Devin Anthony Williams. Dr. Julia Elizabeth Witowska. Dr. Colton Patrick Wolf. Dr. Heather Kaolani Yee. Dr. Saida Kaniz Rabab Sadi Ahmed. Dr. Amir Ahmed Zakari. Dr. Todd Andrew Zimmerman. Dr. Laura Redmond Zimney.
I hope that makes people want to.
Okay, Curtis is going to share the hooding video now. Okay, Dr. Marzo, I think you have a few words to say.
Can you hear me? Congratulations, Stritch class of 2021. You made it. You are all doctors now. It wasn't easy, but you persevered. You have a lot to be thankful for. We celebrate you and we salute you. Remember your great Stritch training. Go forth and set the world on fire. Live long and prosper. Can we unmute everybody, Catherine, or will it be pandemonium?
People can unmute themselves if they would like to.
Congratulations, everyone. Woo! Congratulations, everyone.
Congratulations.
Congrats, everyone.
We did it.
Congratulations.
Yeah.